Can you tell the meter or the time signature of a piece of music just by listening to it? That's what we're going to work on today, and it's actually something you can probably already do, even if you don't know that. This is one of those things that for most people we can naturally do already, at least to some degree. Our brains naturally pick up on the patterns within music the same way that we pick up on patterns in language. So the same way that you can listen to an English speaker and learn how to use the grammar correctly, that's the same thing our brain is doing with music. It's listening to the musical clues that are already there in the context of the music and putting them together into the patterns that we then see on the page. Let's start by actually listening to a piece of music. So we're going to start with a piece called The Border. It's by James Thorup. So here we go.
The way I see it, we're all at the border, afraid to jump over, afraid if we go, there's no way back to where we've been.
So already you're probably feeling that underlying pulse. That's the first step. That's the first key to figuring out the meter or the time signature of a song. So I'm actually going to start the song over and we're going to keep listening for that underlying pulse. So here's the song over again from the beginning. Figure out that underlying pulse.
The way I see it, we're all at the border, afraid to jump over, afraid if we go, there's no way back to where we've been.
So that's your pulse. Okay, so if that's our pulse, what tells us the pulse? What are the musical clues that tell us, hey, this is the underlying pulse? What it is in this beginning part is the guitar. You can hear the guitar, bum, 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 giving us that underlying pulse. The drums will come in later. So if we keep going on.
We're so afraid of starting over. We're in our graves before our lives even begin.
There we go. That's where we have the drums. And you can tell with the drums it's really easy to tell the underlying beat because they're giving it to you so clearly. Okay, so if we stop there for a minute, we've now figured out this is our underlying beats. We know where it is, we can feel it. We feel it in the drums, we feel it in the picking pattern in the guitar. So that's the underlying beat. The next step to figuring out the meter here is to group those beats together. Are they grouped together in twos? Are they grouped together in threes, fours, something else?
Old flames grow colder, while at the back of our hearts we keep these.
And this might be easier if you think about where is the downbeat, where is the strongest beat?
Our shoulders. We're holding on to our way back when's and the way it was then, wishing we could go back in time.
Which means we are grouping these in fours. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what are the clues there? What are the musical clues that tell us that was the stronger beat? What are the musical clues that tell us there are 4 beats grouped together? Well, that's going to happen in the lyrics. That's going to happen in the melody. That's going to happen in the guitar part. It's going to happen in the drums and how the drums repeat, the patterns that they use. There's a lot of things within the music that tell us that. So if we keep listening here.
Oh, we're cruising down the lanes of our lives. Don't worry about.
You can hear the chords are changing every 4 beats.
First try, we've got a million miles to drive.
So we've got that chord change. That's a pretty obvious indicator that we're grouping 4 beats together. You can also, there's a little bit of there are a few things that are happening with the melody and the lyrics that are indicating that as well. But I would say the biggest clue is just where the chords change. The chords are changing every 4 beats, meaning we are grouping those into one measure. Okay, so now we know where the beats are. We know how they're grouped together. The next step is to figure out the underlying subdivisions of the beats. So each beat is going to be divided either into 2s or into 3s. So how do we know that? Well, if this is our beat, 2s would sound like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3s would sound like 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. So that's what we're going to be listening for within this song. So here we go we're going to start with 2s.
A million stories out there waiting.
That fits pretty well. So a 2 subdivision feels pretty good. What about a 3 subdivision?
Ours for the change and making, shaping what we find. But now we're stuck.
It doesn't quite work there. So I would say it's not a 3 subdivision, which means we're not working with compound, we're working with simple. So if this is a simple quadruple meter, meaning that there are 4 beats in a measure and each beat is subdivided into 2s, then we can pretty safely say that this is a 4/4 song. Now I do need to pause for just a minute. We can't actually say what the time signature of the song is. The only way you can know the time signature for sure is if you have the sheet music in front of you and you can see what the composer has written. Otherwise, we're just kind of guessing at what the best option is, what the most likely option would be for this song. Now this song has 4 beats in a measure and each beat is divided in 2s, so the most common or the most likely time signature would be 4/4. Okay, so we've gone through all the steps. We listened for the underlying beats. We figured out how they were grouped together. We listened for the subdivision of the beats. We figured out it was simple quadruple. Okay, so we're going to try this with one more song. I'm going to stick with James. We're going to do another one of his songs. This one is called Closer, and I'll just start playing it. Here we go. Remember, the first step to figuring out the meter or time signature is to hear the underlying beats. So in this case, the beat would be right here.
There's a breeze tonight, painting clouds on the pale pink sky.
So if that's our underlying beat, the next step is to figure out how those beats are grouped together. So listen for a minute.
But on the other side, through your window, it's rising.
Now, if you're saying that feels like they're grouped in 2s, I would agree with you. These are definitely grouped in 2s. So, what are the musical clues there? Remember, a lot of times it's where the chords change. So, where are we getting chord changes? It's often every 2 beats. I would also say there's some clues in the melody. It usually goes to a higher note on the downbeat, a lower note on the second beat, and then goes back up. So we've got kind of some indication in the melody that these are grouped in 2s as well. The next step to figuring out the meter or the time signature here is to figure out the subdivisions. So if this is our beat, are they divided into 2s or are they divided into 3s? That's the question. So here, if I went 1 and 2 and 3, no, that doesn't quite work. This can't be divided in 2s. This is definitely divided into 3s. We have 3 subdivisions for every beat. And you can hear that in the guitar part. You can hear that in the lyrics. You can hear that in the melody.
I'll stand and breathe you in.
You can think in your head, 1, 2, 3,
There's never
1, 2,
been
3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
to keep us apart. 'Cause baby, we're close like sunshine.
Anyway, so now that we've heard enough of it, we can safely say this is a duple compound meter. Duple meaning there are 2 beats in the measure, compound meaning each beat has 3 subdivisions. So duple compound. Now time signatures that fit with duple compound usually would be like 6/8. 6/8 is the most common time signature of duple compound, but we could be using 6/16, 6/4. A composer might even write this in 3/4, even though that doesn't quite fit what we're hearing it still would work. You could still write it that way. So remember, we can't actually tell what the time signature is until we have the written music in front of us. We're just guessing based off of what we hear and what we feel. And in this case, I would say the most likely time signature is probably 6/8. Okay, so we've been through all of the steps here. Let's just review really quickly. How do you figure out the meter or the time signature of a piece that you're listening to? Well, the first step is going to be just listen for the big beats. Listen for that underlying pulse. You have to identify the underlying pulse before you can figure out the meter. So once we've got that underlying pulse, then we need to listen to the clues within the music that tell us how those beats are grouped. So those clues could be the drum beat. Where does it repeat? Where do you hear the bass drum? It could be the picking pattern in the guitars, or it could be the vocal line or the lyrics. There will be clues throughout, from the top to the bottom, from the melody all the way to the bass, of where those beats are grouped. Listen to the chord changes. Listen to the guitars. Listen to the melody. Those things will tell you how the beats are grouped. Once you know how the beats are grouped, then you can identify whether the meter is duple, quadruple, triple, or something else. The last step is to figure out the subdivisions of the beat. So once you have the underlying pulse, does it feel like that pulse has two subdivisions, that each beat is divided into twos? Because if so, that's going to be a simple meter. If it's subdivided into threes, that's going to be a compound meter. Those are your two main identifiers. Is this duple, triple, or quadruple, or something else? Or is this compound or simple? You put those two things together and you come up with what the meter is. So is it simple quadruple? Is it compound duple? Once you know that, then you can come up with the most likely time signature for that piece, whether it's 3/4, 4/4, 6/8, 12/8, or something else. Now, if you're not really sure what I mean by simple or compound and this duple, quadruple, triple thing is confusing you, this video right over here can clarify a lot of things for you. Definitely check it out. We'll see ya.